Welcome to Ask the Authors. I'm Carmen Balake.
I'm Randy Harrington.
And today we're talking about one of our favorite shows.
Oh, yes.
Because it's near and dear to our hearts. Hotel Impossible.
Hotel Impossible. I think this is the first season for that show.
Yes, and I'm addicted already.
Host's name is Anthony something or other.
Melchiori?
Anthony Melchiori.
Something like that.
You have a hard to pronounce last name too, though.
I
so
do.
It's okay.
I do.
Volake.
Yes.
There you go.
I get a lot of questions about that. But we stay in our fair share of hotels.
Lord knows that is true.
And we've always talked about, gosh, we could fix this hotel. I think we could fix this hotel. But I don't think we would do it as well as Anthony does.
Anthony does a great job, and it's a great example of how somebody can come in from the outside and name the devil, and in a very short period of time make dramatic transformational changes in properties that are otherwise just dismal.
That's right. And we think that comes down to two factors, really. You got to fix the internal organization, and you got to fix the service, the external experience. So let's talk about that first one for a minute. What do you like about what Anthony does when he comes in and looks at inside the organization?
Well, the first thing is he's just really unabashed about calling out what is broken. From the look of the place or the feeling of the place. I love that he's attentive to issues like cleanliness in rooms and things like that. But the inexorable path, if you watch him, is it winds up with him sitting across from the general manager.
Yes. Almost always it does.
In what is an awkward conversation usually.
Yes, yes. Sometimes there are tears involved, which is something I like. but in a good way. You know, there was one particular episode that comes to mind where he sat down with the general manager. Actually, this was the second time he sat down because the first time the general manager walked off in a huff and had to have a little time to himself. But in this second time, the general manager is saying, gosh, you know, housekeeping doesn't do their job, maintenance doesn't do their job. None of these people understand the meaning of hard work. They just don't have the work ethic. They just don't get it. And he's listening and listening and listening. And at the end he goes, well, people are challenging. And that was kind of it. In this one phrase, he really captured that leadership is still a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. If the general manager isn't able to get the job done, then everything begins to unwind from there. We've had the good fortune of working with some wonderful people in the travel and tourism and hotel industry. And we hear this again and again from them as well, that the magic of that general manager position is not to be overlooked.
Right.
And they need to be everywhere all the time.
And really understand that the people who work for them, they've got to have that relationship of trust and the willingness to listen to negative information. And it almost always comes down to that, is how clued in is the general manager to negative information.
That's right.
And that actually leads to the second point, which is negative external information.
The service experience turns out to be the bottom line. And, you know, as guests in hotels, we can feel it in 5 seconds when you walk into a hotel.
Yeah, we were just talking to a colleague about buying a home, and he's buying his first home. And I said, well, you know, most of the research shows that you know if you're going to buy a home in the first 4.9 seconds. You walk in and you can either feel it or you don't, you know. I think the same is true with hotels. You walk in and you know.
This is going to be
good.
Or
oh no.
What am I in for here? Absolutely. And, you know, the service experience really does come down to a couple of things. It has to do a lot with attention to detail. And particularly for those of us who travel all the time, you know, there's just things that you're looking for. And I don't think most business travelers are looking for that much necessarily. There's just fundamental things that they need to have. Internet access being one that's reliable and easy.
Quiet rooms.
Quiet rooms and clean rooms. Clean is big. And it's one of the places where there's awful lot of misses, you know, in this. The thing that I want to come back around to, though, that I think is consistent between this idea of the leadership and the service experience and the whole idea of negative information is Anthony does a very good job of what theorists call face-threatening acts, or FTAs. An FTA is any time a person says something to another person that is going to be challenging. I didn't like this, or you failed with that, or, you know, we all know it when we feel it. And you mentioned the first time he sat down with the general manager had to get up and leave because general manager took it personally and had to walk away and shake it off. But our friend Anthony didn't back off of holding up that face-threatening act.
I really like this example because what he did in the second round is admit, I came right at you with naming the devil.
Everything was wrong, right.
What I didn't do and what I'm going to do now is start with a question. How can I help you?
Right.
And that's such a powerful question. And I think then with the face-threatening act, what you're doing is you're asking for the invitation.
Yep.
And then you can get as name the devil as you need to.
Yeah.
But did you get the invitation?
Right.
Is that right? Really?
Well,
you study this.
Yeah. I think that the idea is that, what people don't like is for people to backpedal and soft shoe, which is what your natural tendency is to say, well, I don't think the lobby is as clean as it might be, as opposed to Anthony going, the place looks like crap. I wouldn't, are you kidding me? There's no way you're going to get people to be here. So he just really pushes it a little bit because I think we get sensitized to our own crap, actually. We get comfortable with mediocrity where guests walking in the door aren't going to do it.
Right. Well, we can't wrap up this podcast without talking about one hotel that we visited recently that is absolutely doing it right. We have not been this impressed in a long time.
And it was when we just stumbled onto the hotel. It was near where we were working. This is a Courtyard Marriott property.
That's right.
And we have stayed at many Courtyard Marriott properties.
We have. And I think our listeners might be surprised to hear it's a Courtyard Marriott. I think sometimes when we think, a really good hotel, it has to be the Ritz, or they're going to say something like that.
Right.
But this one blew us away. It's in Dearborn, Michigan,
yes,
outside of Detroit. And this really came down to, we found out, the general manager.
It did. From the check-in through the check-out, the experience was terrific. But I remember coming downstairs in the morning, and I was in a grumpy mood, and I didn't have coffee, and I was looking for coffee. And I heard, as I was opening the door and struggling with luggage, a woman's voice say, "Good morning, everybody. Let's have a great day." I went ahead and put on this and that coffee. And then I realized, oh, my goodness, this is one employee talking to another employee. And it sounded like they were having a ball. They were having fun. This was even backstage. In other words, that wasn't even for the benefit of the guest. It was happening in the back shop. And this was in one of their bistro properties.
Right. So the bistro is a little restaurant right in the middle of the Courtyard Marriott. And you would think, as one of our colleagues who was traveling with us did, I'm not eating there. I'm not going to eat at a Courtyard Marriott.
Yeah, it just seems
so
kind of
we went
lame.
to other restaurants and then, of course, ended up, in one case, having to eat there.
Right.
And it was the best food we'd had the whole time.
Yes, and the service was great.
It was great. And I'll tell you one more thing about this general manager before we wrap up that I thought was amazing. It's a little thing that means a big deal. I got some coffee, and I asked for a straw. And the general manager started to hand me a straw. And her employee, one of her employees that was working for her, corrected her. Said, no, don't give her that straw. Give her this straw. This one's longer. It'll work better for her cup. And it was true. But I thought, what's going on in this organization where that employee knows they can do that?
And what's going on in this organization where the general manager is helping out when there's
to
a
get
rush
the coffee in the first place,
to give you the coffee in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was remarkable. And happily, she was having a great time.
But the deal was, you can question the general manager's judgment if you are in pursuit of the best possible customer service.
Yeah.
That's paramount.
Now, I will tell you, I have stayed in other Courtyard Marriotts with the bistro concept, and frankly, they've always been kind of empty. But this place was hopping.
It was
we came down in the morning, and it was like, oh, my gosh. It was like Woodstock down there. Everybody's happy. Everybody's eating their oatmeal, and it's just all – it was no joke. There was 35 or 40 people in there just having a ball.
And then I went down there at 9 p.m. for a little snack.
Yes.
Because we had not had dinner that night, and it was hopping.
It was
the same thing.
Same
it was
thing.
Totally busy, and everybody's down there having a little glass of wine and talking.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to Courtyard Marriott Dearborn. We think they're doing it right.
If you're ever in the Detroit area, stay there.
Stay there. And then our point as it relates to Hotel Impossible is bringing in somebody outside and having them tell you the candid truth about your organization is a powerful and bold thing to do. We highly recommend it. We think that kind of feedback, that kind of face-threatening act is something that you need to put yourself in line for no matter how your business is doing.
Absolutely. Invite it.
Invite it. Bring it in.
There you go.
And be tough.
So please join us next time on Ask the Authors.